One of the most difficult things in life is maintaining relationships. Hello, this is Tim Daniels, and we welcome you to this moment with the Master. And relationships since the beginning of time, and particularly in marriage, relationships, sometimes they can be hard and they take work. And they are particularly hard when you have one of the spouses is a Christian and the other one is not a Christian. The Apostle Peter, that great preacher who dealt with tension and relationships, wrote a book called First Peter, and he wrote it to Christians who were married. And you had a couple where one was a Christian and one was not a Christian. And in First Peter chapter 3, he's writing to wives who were believers in Christ, but their husbands were unbelievers. And he says something very, very interesting. He said in verse 3, he said, wives, and these are wives who are Christians, married to husbands who are non-Christians, in the same way. Be submissive to your husbands, so that if any of them do not believe the word, they may be won over without words by the behavior of their wives. When they see the purity and the reverence of your lives, your beauty should not come from outward adornment. Verse 4, instead, it should be from your inner self, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is of great worth in God's sight. Verse 7, husbands, in the same way, be considerate as you live with your wives, and treat them with respect, so that nothing will hinder your prayers. Amazing text about living where one is a Christian and the other spouse is not. He says to wives who are married to men who are not Christians, he says, number one, don't leave him. Don't leave him. Back then, there were believers married to unbelievers, and some thought, if my spouse is not a believer, I will leave him. I'm going to just simply leave the relationship. He says, number one, wife, don't leave him. Number two, he says, don't spend all your time lecturing him and trying to convince him through words to change over and to become a Christian. Because look what he said. He can be won without words. The third thing Peter says to those wives, he says, don't, what we call from growing up in the hood, low rate him. Don't demean him or tear him down or make him feel somehow he's less than the husband and the man that he should be because he's not a Christian or he's not active in the faith. He said, don't do that. He says, win him with your true beauty. And he says, true beauty, the true beauty of a woman, no matter how beautiful she seems on the outside, he said in verse 4, he said, true beauty is your inner self. It's your heart. It's your spirit. It's your compassion. It's your love. It's your willingness to lift him up. He said, that's the beauty that is unfading. As the years go by, you become more beautiful on the inside. But then he says one other thing to the men. He said, now, if you are a man and you're a Christian and your wife is not, he says three things. He said, assign her place as queen. Make sure your wife knows that after God, she comes first in your life. Assign her place that he said in the text. And then he says in verse 7, he says, adjust your schedule. Make sure that she knows by the time you spend with her that she is the most important thing in your life after your relationship with God. So he says, number one, assign her place. Make sure that she does not have to compete with anybody else on this earth. Number two, he says, adjust your schedule. Make sure you spend the time with her. And then number three, lastly, he says, accept her faults. Do not reject her because of wounds that she might have before marrying you. He said, if you do that, that will make a person want to come, not just to you, but want to come to God. Relationships are hard. It takes work. That's why we need Jesus. Thank you very much.